Hello and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Aussie writers and other creatives.
Hello, and I'm Lynne. I'm a journalist and a content writer as well, and Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we're bringing you all kinds of tips, ideas, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business.
Hi Lynne, hi everybody.
Hi Rach, it's great to be back, and I'm so excited about our guest today, an old friend of both of us.
I know, it's nice to be talking to someone that we know really well.
It is.
Rubbed shoulders with and clinked champagne glasses with, although there hasn't been a lot of that lately, I know. But yes, we are talking to Monique Butterworth, who is a member of the Gold Group at Rachel's List. So those of you who are Rachel's Listies would have crossed paths with her there. She's also a successful freelancer, all-round fabulous person. And yeah, I can't even remember how many years I've known her. It must be 15. Oh my God, I'm showing my age. But we are going to drill down a bit more into her experience as a freelancer and a writer, as we've been doing for our successful freelancer series lately. But I'll first read a quick bio for Monique before we get her into the hot seat. As a journalist with over 30 years experience in print and digital media, Monique has worked on various magazines and newspapers for News Corp, Nine newspapers, formerly Fairfax, Australian Associated Press, AAP, Pacific Magazines, Bauer, which are now R Media. I can't resist it. And medium rare content in both in-house and freelance and contract roles. She's also worked as a non-fiction publisher for New Holland Publishers. And she's currently freelancing again, combining traditional editorial clients with a range of content and copywriting clients, as well as agency work. So welcome, Monique. Great to have you.
It's lovely to have you, Monique.
So good to be here. I'm a little bit nervous, but anyway, I'm amongst good friends.
Well, that's good to know. It's good to know. Everyone gets nervous. Use it for good.
We've had quite a few podcast virgins on lately, haven't we?
We have.
But they never tell us until after. They're like, that was my first time on a podcast. We just never know.
Well, I'll tell you now, this is the first time I'm on a podcast. So yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
We're becoming the podcast that all the podcast virgins come to.
Yeah. Well, we're always doing new ground, are we? Breaking new ground, are we?
We kind of take it easy on you. So yeah. There's that.
There is that. But we should get you to tell us a little bit about yourself, Monique. I mean, both of us know a bit about your background, but I know you've been freelancing on and off for years. How did you start, and who are you writing for at the moment?
Okay, well, as you know, I'd been working in print media, newspapers, papers and magazines for about 15 years when I flirted with the idea of going freelance. And when I finally decided to take the leap, I was working at Women's Day. So I was actually really lucky because my publisher at that time offered to put me on a retainer for 12 months.
Awesome.
We love a retainer.
Oh, we do love a retainer, yeah. So I was on a weekly income to offer my ideas and stories to them first. And if they liked what I pitched, I'd be paid on top of that to deliver what they wanted. And that fee could vary greatly depending on the exclusivity and the talent involved. And if they didn't like what I pitched, I was free to offer it elsewhere, which was a really wonderful safety net for that first 12 months. So things
That's
are a little
fantastic.
Yeah.
One common thing we've found with freelancers, you need some sort of safety net. Sometimes it's a part-time gig, like an in-house gig. Sometimes it's a client already lined up. So it's a great idea.
Yeah,
that would have been a nice soft
absolutely.
landing, actually.
Yeah.
Mm.
And how much of your work is editorial now?
Well, at the moment, I'd say 60% of my work is editorial across both print and digital. And then 40% would be 40%, not 40%, content and copywriting.
Oh, fair
Well,
enough.
look, I know you've done a lot of celebrity stories. Talk us through the challenges of working with celebrities, working with their agents, and give us any juicy stories.
We love juicy stories.
The best memories you've got.
Stories. Everyone wants the juicy stories, don't they? That's the number one question when someone finds out what I do for a living. They always want to know the juice and who I've met and who I've interviewed. When I was a news editor at New Idea, I was obviously in constant negotiations with various agents, and that was always a bit of a delicate dance. They'd always try to push for copy approval, which of course we very rarely agreed to. And, almost every celebrity I've interviewed has just been lovely, but there have certainly been a few difficult ones. What is it they say about not meeting your heroes? It's always
Yes, I really agree with that, because when I was in entertainment, I had a few full-on ones, or ones that just cancelled on the interview because they just had a whim and didn't want to do it anymore, and you would be left stuck there with your jar of Vegemite or whatever you were giving. Anyway, I want to hear your stories. They'll be far better than mine.
Well, I guess, with celebrities, they've been interviewed a zillion times. So you want to be a memorable interview for the right reasons. So make sure you do your research and have a great set of questions prepared, and always listen for the story within the story, because they might give you something that's a little bit off topic, but far more exciting than what you might have had planned, question-wise coming up. So you've got to just be prepared to run with it.
Yeah.
I found as well, when I was doing entertainment stuff, a lot of film stuff, I don't know if it's changed now, but there would be this kind of, panel of agents and PRs that would sit in the room, and they would veto anything that you said that they didn't want, so there'd be all these stories that came out that were exactly the same from every journalist. Is that the case now, or do you have a bit more leeway?
I must admit, I haven't done a press conference style interview in a while, so I'm not sure. But I think this might have been a Foxtel magazine one, Lynne, I don't know. But I had to interview 2 stars of a series that they'd produced, and it was on camera. So I was sitting there being filmed as I was interviewing them, and then was like cameraman, lighting, everything just all there. And it's quite intimidating. I mean, I wasn't doing it to be on camera, but I still had to interview them that way because they wanted a record of it. So that was a little bit odd for someone who's not used to being on camera.
Yeah.
That is hard. I actually found the celebrity ones I've done, actually the celebrities is usually fine. It's actually the entourage that's the challenge. I've dealt with some really nightmare hair and makeup artists or stylists or publicists. They're really the hard ones, aren't they?
The gatekeepers.
True. And sometimes if you have an idea and you pitch it to their agent, for example, and they go, oh yeah, I'll put it to them, I'll let you know. And then they come back and they're like, oh no, they're not interested in doing that. And then you run into the said celebrity a week or so, or 2 weeks, whenever later, and you mention it to them. They go, oh my God, are you really? I would have loved to have done that. And you go, right.
Yeah. So hard.
Who are some of the most memorable people that you've talked to that'll stick in your mind?
Gosh, so many.
I remember sending you to interview Chris Hemsworth. You got to talk about that.
Yes. Now, well, that was actually possibly up there as my number one. Only because also for all the interviews I've done, it wasn't kind of cool to ask for a selfie or a photo. But for that Chris Hemsworth one, Lynne, as you remember, it was part of the deal. You had to be photographed with said celebrity, which,
yes.
It was very tough to have to.
You were like, what a shame. I'm just going to have to ask for a selfie.
I know. So I certainly know when I do share that photo on social media, it gets a lot of wow factor from people. They're like very impressed. So I often think, if I had have got a photo with every single famous person I've interviewed, it would be quite the collection. But I think that one that was pretty wow, and I'm going to lose all the young people right now, but I did get to go to LA to meet and interview Priscilla Presley in a suite at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And I just kind of hung out with her for like half a day, which was a bit of a wow factor. My mum was dead impressed with that one.
Half a day. God, that's like the old school type, Rolling Stone interviews where you trail someone for, a longish time and actually get a good profile on them.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. Budgets. Remember those?
Yeah.
That was the days. Yeah. So how and where do you find your clients? Do you do much marketing, or do you have a full pipeline? How does it work for you?
I'm probably a little bit slack on the marketing front. I just think it's down to contacts for me, really. Still have quite a few contacts across the industry, which really helps. For me, that's, but I mean, I've picked up work through some agencies, but that's always a friend referral as well. I try and update my Insta page with stuff that I've been doing, but sometimes I let that slip and all of a sudden it looks like I've written the world because I'll bung a few things on there and it bombards everyone. And they think, wow, she's busy.
I can relate to that.
I have a website, but that could be a lot better than what it is. But, at least I've ticked the box of having a website. But, for me, it's a lot of referral and just constant pitching and staying in contact with people.
How does pitching work for you?
Whenever you come across something, you get these tidbits of information from PRs and that sort of thing. And you sort of think, oh, who could I pitch that to and how could I spin it? And I just constantly sort of have a role of that sort of thing. But, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Do you find that sometimes with your pitching, sometimes it's not just they don't actually take you up on a pitch, but it just reminds them that you're there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because they may not want your story, but then they go, oh, hey, look, actually, while you're here, can you do this? So yeah, no, you're right. That's a very good idea about pitching.
And I still remember actually when you came to work with me at Foxtel magazine that we met at a function, an industry function. I happened to be looking for somebody to help me out for the next few months. And we happened to be at that function. And it was just one of those, oh my God, Monique, you're the perfect person. It was so good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those events and functions were priceless for that sort of thing. So when we are all allowed to gather again, I think that's a really good thing to do, to try and get out there, get amongst it, get your face out there, because, we can all be virtually out there, but I think nothing is quite as good as face-to-face to remind people what you do and that you're available. Because sometimes people think, maybe you're too busy to do things, or it's a bit beneath you or whatever, or, all that sort of stuff. It's like, no, definitely not. Hit me with it.
Well, you've talked a little bit about your contacts book, and obviously in entertainment and what the kind of stuff you do, you need to have a really strong contacts book. But talk us through some of the ways that you've built those relationships over the years. Are there any little strategies that you use to stay top of mind with editors or with content agencies? Are you just sort of dipping in and out and just being visible to them, or what? How do you do it?
Being visible, I think, is important. And yes, contacts are everything. And I just think our industry is so small. You kind of always know someone somewhere, which for me is great. I mean, there's always new and up and coming people in various magazines and sites and that sort of thing, which I may not know, but I find I somehow always know someone somewhere, and it's always easy to sort of link back in.
I think it would be good to talk about your experience back as being a copy kid, because you came from the country. I think that was really good, and it must have been a big change.
It was a massive change. When I was given my gig, I actually was interviewed on my 18th birthday, which is the 19th of December, and they wanted me to start on Christmas Day, the 25th of December, 6 days away. They wanted me to
mucking around.
No, they wanted me to move my entire life from the country to the city in 6 days and start a job. And anyway, I managed to negotiate starting on Boxing Day, which my parents were thrilled with. But no, it was a great experience, that whole system at News Limited, going through the ranks and getting to work alongside some incredible people and learning from great people on the job. I mean, yeah, there was certainly some characters there. And I guess in terms of contacts, there was, some of the journos could be maybe not so great to you, but there was one quite senior journo who was really lovely to all of us, kids. And his mantra was, be good to the copy kid, because they might be your boss one day. And that's very true.
I think John Burford has told us that. Hasn't he come across some students who've ended up becoming his boss?
Yeah, I think so too.
Agencies.
And I think John actually might have been a copy kid at the Oz about the same time, wasn't he?
I think he's a little bit older than me, Lynne, just quietly.
He'll love that.
A little. Yeah, I can expect a call from John later.
Yes.
But I do know that, you've got a great friend who came from Tamworth with you, who you kept in contact with.
Yes. Tamworth people are quite the mafia in the media, really.
Yeah, there's a few of you.
Some have done very well. Mark Ferguson is one. He's done quite well, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah. Is there a connection when you come from that country town that you that helps build up some sort of rapport? Anyone from Tamworth is immediately one of your people?
Oh, definitely. I think we can definitely seek each other out at parties quite easily.
Fair enough. But I guess it's not just making those initial contacts, it's about maintaining them. And I think how does that, I mean, dipping in, I mean, you and I had never worked together until I met you at the that function and asked you to come and help me out at Foxtel, but we'd met over the years quite a few times, hadn't we?
Yes, we had exactly, but we'd never actually worked physically together. Exactly, you're right. So I think that's right. I mean, contacts are quite easy to cultivate, but it's how you work with them after that and develop those relationships that I think is really important, because you're only ever as good as your last job. So it's always important to deliver, don't screw anyone over, and never miss a deadline. Which I know that sounds stupid, but having been on both sides of the fence, like being the person commissioning people, I was constantly surprised how some people who I would consider experienced journalists just had no respect for the deadline, or, you know, it was like, geez, it's a no-brainer. I won't be commissioning you again because you're just making my life hell.
Yeah, I still, after so many years freelancing, it's well over 20 years, I still have terror for the deadline, like an inbuilt terror.
Even when you know it's a false deadline, still have terror.
I know. You know that there's a buffer built into it, but I'm very good at negotiating the deadline when I'm commissioned. Like if I know that it's going to be too hard, I'll always try and say, no, can I have another week or whatever it's going to be? And if it's no, that's fine. But I'm like, the thought of it, of just letting one whiz by and not filing is terrifying.
Yeah. That's a bit old school. That's maybe back to those newspaper days and doing the cadetships. Those subs scared the hell out of me when I was young. And so you never lose that terror.
Very true.
See, I was never on newspapers, but magazines had, obviously I started freelancing quite young. I was 27. So yeah, I kind of had so many deadlines for movies, you know, the movie columns and stuff like that. And you just could not miss it. You just couldn't. And it was really tight because often you'd be seeing the movie and then filing that afternoon or something. Yeah.
Because weekly magazine deadlines are just as brutal almost as daily ones. You know, as you know, there's sections that are daily deadlines. So in order to make it print. So
I have to say, one of the great things about your, Monique, working with you is that you've got this wonderful, positive, can-do attitude that even though you might be having a serious, I call it a fuckity fuck moment, but I don't know if we should say that. When you say, oh, can you find a location in X or anything, you just go, okay, and you start making phone calls. And that's it's something I learned from you, and I think that's a really positive thing, that even if we don't know, we just go, okay, let's start making phone calls.
You were just telling us before off air, you know, that you had an editor say to you, so can you interview Thomas Keneally tomorrow morning? You were like, okay, yep.
You just make it work because you just have to, you know, like
you're a yes girl a bit.
Yeah, you just figure out, I guess, because a lot of my training was, you know, either you were just expected to do a lot, like multitask.
Yep.
And, you know, I think my first job in magazines, they said, oh, by the way, you're going to be the beauty writer, because I think basically no one else wanted to do it. And I was the most junior on staff, and I didn't know anything about beauty whatsoever. So I just kind of just did it, and it was great. It was fun. And but you just don't say no.
Yeah, you just make it work.
I think we're all like that to a degree, aren't we? We just like figure it out. That's why it's so interesting sometimes, because I've commissioned a lot for Rachel's List, and there have been times where I've had to send something back, rarely, because that's the beauty of commissioning experienced writers to write these blog posts that we do. But there's been times when I've had to send the odd one back and say, look, can you do this or can you do that? And the writer has said, oh, sorry, I don't know how to do that, so I'm just going to leave it here.
No.
Or I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to let you do that, or something like that. And it just shocks me, because I think we do have that inbuilt sense of, I'll just have to sort that out, whatever. I just have to research that or find that person or just work it out. Yeah.
Yes. So I guess that's, since you've been freelancing for a few years on and off, you must have picked up a few tips or habits. And I always get the impression that you're pretty busy, but maybe that's part of the spin that we all have, because we all have busy and quiet times. What sort of things do you do now that you've learned along the way?
I am a bit of a to-do list girl, and a very old school one at that, pen and paper, because there's nothing more satisfying than ticking things off your list.
Yes.
I can be a bit of a procrastinator, so I find to-do lists kind of just, kick me into gear, which is good. I guess it's still very hard for me to say no to work, but I have learnt it can be often the best thing to do to ensure a healthy work-life balance, especially now that I have a family and I can't be so readily available to everyone all the time. And I think always go with your gut instinct. If a client is difficult from the beginning, it's not going to get any better.
I would agree with
We've
that.
all learned from that. You just know, don't you? You think, oh no, it'll be fine. And it never is. It never is.
So true. So true.
Oh.
Well, look, you and I both have a young kid around the same age, or I think Matilda is a little bit older than Charlie. So I have to dive in and ask you about your homeschooling tips. And I would ask a guy this as well, because I think a lot of dads are pitching in with the homeschooling. I know my husband is doing all of it at the moment. But how have you been managing that? Because it's interesting to me, given we're both freelancers and we're both doing the same thing, but I'm wondering if other people have a better better system than I do.
Well, I'm sort of solely responsible because my partner's business, obviously he can't work from home, so he's just not here. So that falls on me. I think Matilda is equally as over it as I am. She's in grade 3. I mean, she's been a little bit more independent this year with the learning, but, she still needs a lot of guidance and explanation, which, sometimes it's just really tricky. But this time around, I thought, okay, I'm not going to try and do it all, which is, I was trying to be like super teacher last year.
Yeah.
So we just do English and maths, and maybe not all of English and maths, some of English and maths, just whatever works. And if she reads a book for a little while and does some drawing and that sort of thing, I'm pretty happy with that. But we aim to get it all done by 11, so I can try and focus on my work. And depending what I've got on, I might get up really early in the morning to get a few solid hours in before we start the school day. But let me tell you, bring on October 25. I am so ready.
Oh, so hard.
Mine is a week earlier. Because,
lucky you.
Yeah, it's the 18th. Yeah.
But I do think it has affected my business in that the expectation that I can homeschool because I work from home has meant, it means I haven't really been able to chase and pitch for as much work as I probably normally would have in this time.
Yeah, I think it's affected like my business in that respect as well, but also just in having that space to think and that no distractions, and you really start to realize you can't do what you used to do. So you're having to work around all the distractions all the time. And that's what I've found so challenging, I guess.
Yeah. And the constant feeding of snacks and stuff like that.
The snacks. The endless snacks.
And the I'm bored.
We're gonna be like, robots when they go back. We'll just be like money making machines, won't we?
Get all our work done by 11 and go, oh, what am I going to do for the rest of the day? Like,
I'm just going to go to the pool.
Oh dear. Do you have sort of like a daily or weekly routine, like in good times or in normal times? Tell us how it works.
Good times. Well, I know that I'm definitely more productive in the mornings. So if I'm on a deadline or lots of deadlines, I like to get up really early and sort of break the back of the story before breakfast, because it's the quietest time in the house. Like no one else is up, and I seem to get a lot done in that first couple of hours of the day. And that time I also, normally send out story pitches via email or any queries I have on a story or a project in the morning. So then while I'm getting Matilda ready for school and do the drop off, I can go for a walk, grab a coffee, or maybe even go for a swim if I'm lucky, and be back at my desk at around 10 to get on with the day. And then hopefully the answers I need from my emails are there waiting for me, and it just sort of, flows from there. But depending what I've got on really determines how many hours I attach myself to my laptop, because I think it's far easier now to be across everything and not necessarily sitting at your desk, thanks to technology. But that also does have its downsides, as we know, when clients assume that you're contactable and working 24/7.
Oh, yeah. That is the challenge, because it's nice having that flexibility that you work when it suits you. But often if you ever, danger for the newbies to answer on a Sunday or send something on a Sunday, and then your clients go, whoa, she's at a desk, let's hit her. Yeah.
Trick for young players.
Yeah, you've got to get used to using those send later functions.
Yes.
I just found that on Outlook, actually.
Oh,
I've been using it a lot.
yes.
Send later.
I just write it all and minimize them and send them first thing in the morning.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Well, I know we often ask freelancers, veteran freelancers such as yourself, about rates. Well, I meant that in the nicest possible way. Not like you were like an octogenarian or anything. But look, we all know that rates is one of the trickiest things that we have to negotiate and navigate around as freelancers. So how do you manage it? How do you set yours or negotiate for better rates?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks to your wonderful Rachel's List group, I mean, I've got a good idea of what others are charging, because it's a constant topic there, which is good. Because I
love that about that group, actually.
Yeah. It's good to see what others are doing. And also, especially if you're stepping into an area that you might not normally write for, like book editing or something like that, something that's a little bit out of your wheelhouse. I mean, I certainly do have mates rates that I do when I do some work for friends, if I know it's going to be straightforward, non-demanding, easy. But after, so many years, I do understand my worth and I do charge accordingly, but I've had lots of conversations with Lynne about this. I've picked her brain many a time, haven't I?
Yeah, well, particularly because you've moved more out of the magazine, you've done more corporate stuff, and I think that's new, isn't it, for everybody?
Yeah, so moving into that, you're right, that content copywriting sphere is quite new for me this time around. So, and it is a different world in terms of financials. And as you know, editorial rates vary, but fortunately, I'm mostly at the upper end of what is considered a good word rate. And there's also editorial work I do where the rate might not be that great, but if it's something that's, relatively handed to you on a platter, where the interviews are straightforward, they're already organised, and you can turn it around quite quickly. And if you look at that as an hourly rate, then it's quite good, if that makes sense.
Oh, certainly. I think I charge less for something I know I can do in an hour or two. So it doesn't look so good if you look at it at a word rate, but if you look at it, it's how long it takes you. It's pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that is definitely like a mindset that we've all had to adopt, where with the editorial, we're being paid a word rate. And so we sort of base it on that. But in content, we have to think of it, the fee that we're being paid as an hourly rate. So like, I got to really get my skates on for that one or whatever. Yeah.
And I have shot myself in the foot a few times with clients that have come back a bit more difficult. And, despite having a clause in that contract that, they only get 3 draft changes, goes, whatever, I sort of tend to let 1 or 2 slide. And then next thing I know, I'm up to, the 6th draft. And I'm like, oh, why didn't I put my foot down earlier? And so suddenly that what was going to be paid quite well is now paid quite poorly.
Yeah. That is actually often the thing with corporate stuff, is that editorial work, especially when you know the publication, it's usually just often no changes or very minimal changes, a little bit of extra details, but corporate stuff often goes through a lot more revisions. Which is why
everyone's got an opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
What sort of digital tools do you use? Are there any that you recommend that you like?
Well, I don't think I've got anything groundbreaking to tell you. I think Rachel's List is a great resource, and I love I love the water cooler element of it. I feel like I'm connected to a community, which is good. Which, as we know, freelancing can be quite a lonely process at home, especially when we haven't been able to actually catch up for a drink or coffee with anyone, unless you're walking. And rev.com certainly changed my life as a transcribing tool. I also use Otter, but it does depend on who I'm interviewing, how big the story is, and what I'm being paid. Usually determines which one I'm using. I think, as we discussed earlier, I made a bad call on that with the interview I just recently did. But anyway, and financially, I mean,
we've all been there.
Yes.
and Rounded, which I came across again through the wonderful Rachel. That's transformed.
I do love Rounded.
It's transformed that side of my business. I mean, gosh, when I first started out freelancing and having to do all that myself manually, that was just so daunting. And I'm sure there were invoices that slipped through the cracks because I just, just the admin time you needed to do all that. So that's certainly transformed everything.
Oh yeah, the invoices and financial things is such an important, because it's not something that you think about right at the beginning, but gosh, it makes your life easier, and rounded makes it's, even if you're not a financial person, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's easy to use, and it's worth the money because it just does cut down so much of that admin time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah. And I also get the telemedia alert, like the email every day, which I read, which I think is a great one for keeping track of who's going where, who's who in the zoo, that sort of thing. And I'm obviously, because there's so many new people coming through all the time. Mm-hmm. It's good to get their contact details because they share the contact details on there. So that's helpful.
Yep.
But I'm pretty lo-fi. I think I don't have that many tricks or tips.
Very lo-fi.
That's quite good, because sometimes people think you have to have all the things. You have to have the whiz-bang things, and sometimes it's just your laptop and, your phone.
I've downloaded lots of things and gone, yeah, this is great, and never used it. So, like,
yeah.
We've been there.
Yeah. Gosh. Well, we're coming kind of to the end of the podcast, but I wanted to know, is there anything that you want to share that you think is important for people who might be thinking of freelancing, or any last, bits of advice?
Well, I think definitely you need to have a good buffer financially, because you'll soon discover it's the feast or famine joys of freelancing and the often very random nature of invoice paying. To relieve a little bit of that stress, it's good to have something there, or maybe if you can test the waters by taking on freelance work whilst you're still employed. I mean, as long as it's not a conflict of interest, of course. And, even maybe have a client or two ready to go when you make the leap, already on your books. And as boring as it is, remember to put your tax aside, because those tax bills can be real downers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I still have to do my tax. You've just reminded me.
Yeah, me too. Don't worry. You're not on your Pat Malone there.
Yeah. I rang my accountant and she goes, can you just give me like 3 or 4 months?
Fine.
Super busy.
Oh gosh, put off tax. Who wouldn't want to do that?
I'm sure it's legal.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for sharing, a bit about your life and your work life and your tips for other freelancers, because you are one of those really successful freelancers who still manage to make a living in magazines as well as plugging the gaps with the other stuff. So we really appreciate you talking to us and showing us how it's done, I suppose.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Mon. It's lovely to have you on, and it's nice to see you on the Zoom, even if we haven't had like drink or coffee for a while.
We'll rectify that shortly, though.
Yeah, hopefully.
Definitely. But I also think this series of successful freelancers is really positive, because I think it shows that many people can make a career as a freelancer, and I think it's a really nice positive. And we all come in different shapes and sizes and with different types of work. And I think that's really important too.
But tell us where people can find you if they were looking for you.
Oh, okay. Yes. So my email is moniquebutterworth.com. And my professional Insta is Monique Butterworth Writer. Probably the best two ones to find me at. With all
and
my
your
details.
lovely website.
And I do have a website, which is moniquebutterworth.com.
Easy to spell.
Easy to spell.
You lucked out there.
Very easy.
Well, we'll pop all of that into the show notes so that people can track you down aka stalk you, give you work, hopefully.
So thanks so much. It's really lovely to have you.
Oh, it's been great. Thank you. That wasn't quite as painful as I thought it could have been. Thank you.
Oh, that doesn't sound good, does it?
I meant that in a good way. I meant that in a very good way. Like,
Not like bashing your head against
No.
Now it's over.
Well, thanks for making us your first podcast, Mon.
Yeah, no, my goodness. How funny.
Yeah. They're not all as fun as us, though.
I know. They're not nearly as good as you. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening today. And
we'll be back again next week.
We will be back again next week. And if you like this episode, please go and give us a lovely review and a 5-star rating.
That's what we want.
That's a bit forward of me, isn't it?
That's fine.
You can do 4 stars if you want.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
No, you can only 5 stars.
Only 5. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.